the serious bit of the news is concerned. I don't know how many people are paying attention to, well, it's moving out of brouhaha territory into something more serious, because before the weekend, you could say brouhaha. I'm talking about the issue with the CARICOM Secretariat and the CARICOM Secretary General, Carla Barnett, and TNT saying, we did not endorse her reinstallation, and we were skillfully kept away from the decision. And they say they wrote to to CARICOM complaining about them being sidelined. As we'd say in Jamaica, then go around them is effectively what Trinidad were saying, or was saying. Only to hear that there was a meeting on the weekend, an emergency meeting, convened by the chairman of CARICOM, Dr. Terence Drew, St. Kitts and Nevis' prime minister, to talk about the issue that TNT wrote to say it wanted to talk about. And TNT never turned up. Then boycott the meeting. No, I've always found, and admittedly I've been at a different proximity to the news when Edwin Carrington was CARICOM Secretary General. Clearly I was just a spectator. Now, as a person working in the field, I have a different proximity to the news. I found that Edwin Carrington was, reasonably accessible and thing. But Carla Barnett as CARICOM Secretary General doesn't exist in real terms. The office and her office, they probably hear from her once or twice per year when there's some event that they keep. Doesn't give media interviews, doesn't speak about CARICOM issues. And I don't know what kind of leader absents herself from the discourse about an organization which faces so much criticism about their inactivity and their inaction and their ineffectiveness. I would be front and center doing and saying what I'm doing. But her style is different and her style doesn't work, I must tell you. No, that has nothing to do with TNT's feeling about her reinstallation. And that has nothing to do with her reinstallation, just to distill the issues. But I'm just saying that for someone in an important role such as that, to choose to absent yourself from the regional discourse is very disappointing. And in this dispute over her reinstallation, she wins no friends by virtue of the fact that she is, some people would say she is reticent, which is reserved in speech, or some people say taciturn, which is almost mute, yeah, a degree above reticence, yeah. So I don't know how you can have somebody leading any organization in the 21st century who doesn't speak any at all on the issues affecting the organization, especially in an environment in the Caribbean, where regional issues can be so febrile, the atmosphere around it. So Carla Barnett needs to buck up here in this new stint. And I don't know how the Trinis are playing it or what game they're playing, but they are hopping mad. And I just find it curious, their strategy, to call for discussions about this thing, get the discussion, and then boycott the discussion. Yeah, there's something there. Locally, this issue with teachers, not the hot matter, but I was made aware on the weekend of a survey instrument that was given to teachers to talk about their reaction to certain plans the government was making. And I said to myself, well, who is it that designed this instrument? And I'm sure you've heard me say in the past, Tana, that instruments and exams are not just random things that people put together. There's science behind it. The people who do it are skilled in the science of designing these instruments to ensure that there's no bias and that the questions are fair. So it's a national teacher sentiment survey. The purpose of it, to assess teacher perspectives on compensation, policy decisions, and working conditions. Responses are anonymous and will be used for research and advocacy purposes only. And the first question is, which parish do you currently teach in? And of course, it lists the 14 parishes. Next question, what's your level of confidence in the current salary negotiation process? The options, very confident, somewhat confident, neutral, lacking confidence, or not at all confident. Third question, which sector of the education system do you work in? Options, early childhood, primary, secondary, special education, tertiary, other. Fourth question, how many years of teaching experience do you have? And it goes from 0 to 5 up to 26 or more. All right. Next question, how would you rate your level of awareness of the current salary negotiations between the Ministry of Finance and Public Service and the Jamaica Teachers Association? Options, are you very aware, somewhat aware, neutral, slightly aware, or not aware at all? Next question, to what extent do you think the government is acting in good faith in these negotiations? Options, to a great extent, to a moderate extent, to a small extent, not aware at all, or unsure. Listen to this one now. And this is where it gets interesting. And I'm wondering, who is it that designed this and what their purpose was? What is your level of awareness regarding the government's intent to discontinue the master's allowance for teachers? Let me restate it. What is your level of awareness regarding the government's intent to discontinue the master's allowance for teachers? The options, very aware, somewhat aware, slightly aware, not aware at all. But then here the next question now. Remember now that question, what is your level of awareness regarding the government's intent to discontinue the master's allowance for teachers? The very next question, what is your position on the discontinuation of the master's allowance for teachers? So one question asks you what you think about the government's intention to. And the next question asks you, what do you think about the government's decision to have done so? That makes sense. Yeah? The options under what is your position on the discontinuation of the master's allowance for teachers is strongly support, support, neutral, oppose, strongly oppose. Then the next question, what are your views on the handling of the master's allowance issue, including the decision to publish instructions to end it and the withdrawal of the bulletin issuing the directive? Survey instrument people make up on the mind when I ask the people. You ask what was their reaction to the intention to abandon. Then you ask them, what was their reaction to the abandonment? Then you ask them, what was their view on the handling of the situation where abandonment was communicated, then the communication of abandonment was withdrawn? What are you asking? Yeah? Then the options under the question. What are your views on the handling of the master's allowance issue, including the decision to publish instruction to end it and the withdrawal of the bulletin issuing the directive? It was unfair. It was a punitive act. I am neutral on the issue. It was fair. It's a retrograde step. Then the next question. How satisfied are you with the government's management of schools as shelters? 1, very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, neutral, somewhat dissatisfied, very dissatisfied. Next question. In your opinion, what is the acceptable maximum duration for shelter use of schools after a disaster? Options, less than a month, 1 to 3 months, 3 to 5 months, more than 5 months. Schools should not be used as shelters, not sure. Then, what is your position on schools hosting shelter residents while school is in session? Strongly support, support, neutral, oppose, strongly oppose. Next question. To what extent do you believe prolonged shelter use affects teaching and learning? Options, to a great extent, to a moderate extent, to a small extent, not at all, unsure. Next question. Reports have been circulated by agencies in education about the inappropriate activities occurring in schools used as shelters. Let me read that again. Reports have been circulated by agencies in education about the inappropriate activities occurring in schools used as shelters. How credible do you consider these reports to be? Options, very credible, somewhat credible, neutral, somewhat not credible at all. Next question. Overall, how would you rate the government's treatment for teachers at this time? Very positive, somewhat positive, neutral, somewhat negative, very negative. And the last question, in your view, does the government's current approach to the teaching profession justify the consideration of collective action to address ongoing concerns? Options, strongly agree, somewhat agree, neutral, somewhat disagree, strongly disagree. Now, the design of this, you're asking teachers, in their opinion, what should be the maximum time for somebody to stay in a school as a shelter? And you expect somebody to answer that just like that? Me think 3 months is enough? Me think 2 months is enough? Me think 1 month is enough? And then you're asking them, yeah, reports have been circulated by agencies in education, plural, agencies in education, about the inappropriate activities occurring in schools used as shelters. Which agencies survey instrument people? And I don't know how you design something like this. Give to educators, and then you're going to use the findings and say, see it, this is what teachers are saying. And if you get 10 responses, 20 responses, the 20,000 people who are members of the JTA who pay their dues, you're going to say that the views represent theirs. So, what gun, the person loading this gun, when you go fire it, and at whom will you train the barrel of your rifle? What is happening here? This sounds like a survey instrument that does not have bias built into it. I'm just asking. You want my opinion? This seems like a survey instrument in which bias is built into by virtue of the questions asked. Reports from agencies. That part got me. And then the master's allowance. You ask them, what do they think about the intention to? You ask them, what do you think about the decision to? Then you ask them, what do you think about the withdrawal of the document saying that they intend to? Anyway, break time.